Hey everybody, this is Mike Bono from the North Andover Athletic Association, and you are listening to the Nightly News Podcast, the show that brings you inside the lines of North Andover High School athletics. All right, welcome back to the Nightly News Podcast. Al, welcome back.
Hi Mike, how are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. We have two very special guests today. This is our first time in all the podcasts we've done so far that
All
we've
six.
had six.
You know, six or so.
Six?
Right?
Oh, six. That's right, six. This is the first set of coaches we have on the Nightly News Podcast. We want to welcome Coach Rick Delakai, the cross-country coach, girls cross-country coach,
Yes, yep.
North Andover High, and Coach Bill Varney, the boys cross-country coach. Welcome, gentlemen, to the Nightly News Podcast.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Great to have you. So the cross-country program, running in general in North Andover, has been pretty successful thanks to a lot of people. Steve Nugent, obviously big part of that, but also for you guys and also just the ability to groom kids from a younger age. And so I want to start off with sort of the youngins, right, before we get into the high school. So Bill, you were the co-founder of the youth track and youth cross country in North Andover back in 2008.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about how you started that.
So I was involved with NAAA, your favorite, for 10 years, including president. Both my boys played club soccer as well as right through U6 through the U14. Played a little bit of club in high school. But I came with a track and cross-country background, high school and college. And I loved the soccer because it was really a great recruiting ground for running. Whenever there was fields were closed, I would take my select team to the track. And so that was the idea. And I said, it's kind of crazy. The spring is so busy, but what if we could get, just 20 or 30 kids in the spring, flexing it with their schedule. And I met up with Dave Johns and Jack McManus, and that was really the seeds that we put together, hoping that we get 24 kids to maybe 30 just to cover the budget. And we had that covered the first few years with boosters, which they were very generous to help us. And then, lo and behold, we opened enrollment. We got 120 kids that first spring.
Wow.
So from there, it's grown to about 350 through COVID to up to 400 every spring. And it's kind of a unique program for town sports in that we don't put the kids in the events. We let them select. So it's almost like if you think of when you were a kid and it was shirts and skin and you play basketball and you get lopsided, you say, okay, why don't you go on the other team? There's no parent. It's parent supervision. The high school synergy really runs the program. All the kids that went through the program end up being coaches in high school, coaching the little kids. So that's really the secret sauce. And if you take a feeder system of 400 kids in 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, when they get to the high school, maybe soccer doesn't pan out. Maybe their dream of cheering or lacrosse doesn't pan out. And they say, you know what? Maybe I'll go for spring. I got a lot of friends on that team. And so if you look at our spring track programs, boys and girls, we get 200 kids at the high school, every spring.
Yeah.
And it's just a wonderful program.
That's great. And so, do you still run it, or who? Or is that?
I'm involved in it.
Okay.
I mean, I have the title president, but really it's by committee.
Okay.
And if I really want to be honest, Nuge and I and the coaches really direct the kids. There's a lot of great high school leadership, as you've seen with the youth center and summer fun. These kids drive the program, and they're, adults are just basically directing traffic.
That's great. And obviously, the results at the high school level are in part probably a big part because of that youth track program.
Yeah, it's a big part. Is it everything? No. I mean, I think the high school went through an accreditation and a new high school, so there's some really great student athletes that may stay here that might not have in the 1990s when they had the other school. So there's a lot of factors. I think moving to the MVC versus the Cape Ann, we kind of outgrew that. So, competition with Andover and Lowell is pretty special, as you're coming through youth sports. So I think it's a big part, but not the entire thing.
Rick, you last year your girls cross country team was undefeated in the MVC. First undefeated season, even though they started in the MVC in 2012. I'm sorry, first undefeated season ever. Since 1975 or whatever. Yeah. But first time in the MVC as well. And my understanding is you have a lot of younger kids that contributed to a great season last year. Can you just talk about what the team looks like this year? What your expectations are?
Well, the expectations are always high, and we've got. I'd say our main contributors are going to be freshmen and sophomores. So we look pretty good for the next few years. We're off. We're only into the season a couple days here, but we've had some setbacks, in terms of health over the summer. So it's going to be one of those seasons where I think, when we get things straightened out, we're going to be a force in late October and November. And we're using kind of the first maybe 6 weeks of the season to kind of get ourselves right. People coming off of sicknesses, injuries, and the early part of the season kind of favors us. So we can maybe cruise a little bit and get by some of those early meets and get some of our top 5 people healthy. And then, like I said, if everything goes well, we have the athletes to really make a statement at the league level and the state level.
Right. A few weeks ago, we did a podcast with Bill Gordon from Gordon Physical Therapy, and so hopefully some of the kids listen to that on what they should be doing.
Well, they find a lot of them find their way to that second floor. Let me tell you,
because they have the Gordon PT shirt on.
Oh yeah,
running, right? And Bill, so last year both the boys and the girls advanced to All-State for the first time since 2008.
Yes.
Together. Talk about the boys team. What's that looking like for the fall?
Yeah, so I've joined Rick since 2017, and we've been basically trying to build up the boys from really the early grades in terms of changing the culture a little bit, and in terms of attitudes towards summer training. So pre-COVID, we had a 9-1 season, and we just finished second to Lowell. Then we had the COVID season, which was really no league. It was just running with masks, and I don't even know what you want to call it, but it wasn't cross country. And I'm sure you probably have an opinion on soccer with masks and stuff. So that was a difficult time. Last year, we gave Lowell a scare, and Lowell is the gold standard of the MVC for distance running. They have been for decades. They've won over 110 dual meets in a row. So this year, we're hoping that we can run with them. Give them a meet, and we'll see where the chips fall. We're good enough to beat them, but on any given day, they're very good, and they're always well prepared. Superior coaching, so that's really sort of our first hurdle that we'd like to finally check the box on. And then after that, I think we've got a strong team that can compete in the postseason. As Rick knows, he's been doing this for a lot longer than I. The health component of running, it's like thoroughbred horses. You might think you're favored 2-1 in the Kentucky Derby, but all of a sudden, you're headed to the glue factory. So we're just keeping our fingers crossed and see how it goes.
So we've got a bunch of other coaches lined up for the next few days to do podcasts with, and it's no, accident that we asked. You're the only pair that we're having come in, and the reason I wanted to do that was, from my own kids doing cross country. Can you talk about the culture of the teams together? I mean, it's very different than every other sport.
It's super special. So I can speak for myself because I'm probably the oldest guy in this room. I grew up in high school before Title IX, and there was girls' sports, but it was very separate. There was a very small girls' track program. There was no girls' cross country, so there was in 1977 when I graduated, 2 girls joined the boys' team, and they just ran. I went through Title IX in college when actually at Bryant College, which is Bryant University now, they added a women's program. And for the high school, it is just such a great synergy. You know, some of these kids come in as very awkward freshmen, don't really have a lot of self-esteem. Some of them are very cocky, but you blend them all together, and at the end of 3 years, you've got just a great synergy of friendship. Kids that are just coming from different backgrounds, pulling for each other. They're I mean, we worry anytime there's a pasta party because you've got 80 kids converging on a parent's house. They have no idea what they're in for, but these are generally a great group of kids, and it's just fun to watch over those 4 years some of that awkwardness grow into self-confidence, and they tend to be very strong academically, which is also a nice bonus.
Sure.
And both programs sort of train together. They do everything together.
Right.
You know, and that's different from from probably every other program here. So the boys and the girls are with each other all the time. During practice. So and sometimes we're intermingling the workout groups. Some of our top girls are running some of our mid-pack boys. So it really is one program and not two separate programs. And they're very often doing the exact same thing. Girls might do it a little bit slower than the boys, but they're out there at the same time, and they just love hanging out together too. I mean, we may have some days the shortest practices that turn into the longest practices because they just stay together afterwards, and they'll sit there and roll out for 45 minutes and just socialize. So I don't know, you can't get that with any other sport. And they really, really develop, strong bonds and lifelong friendships.
Yeah, it really is impressive to see watching my son do it for 4 years. He was never great, but he did it. He went every day, and he had fun.
He had a lot of fun.
And
Yep.
they had a good group. Question I'll ask that hopefully will help some other parents out there that I never quite figured out. Real quick, how does scoring work in cross country?
So it's a little bit like golf. Okay, so if you take the top 5 runners and you just, for each team, and just call it a dual meet, and you go 1, 2, 3, you can't lose a meet because that's 15, and then even if the next 5 or 7 come in, you're still going to win. So it's the 5 top runners for each team score, and you just add the numbers. So first is 1 point, third is 3 points, and likewise for the team on the other side. And there is a little displacement where the 6 and 7 really do matter, but they don't score, but they can push the numbers down. But it's lowest score wins. So a perfect shutout is 15 to 50 for a dual meet. Anything you wanted to add on that, Rick?
No, you covered the, I thought you were going to miss the easiest aspect, which is you get the points that you score on the meet. So you finish third, and that's it. That's those 3 points. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's 15. And if you go 6, 7, you've pushed out. They automatically, no matter what you do after that, they're automatically going to get 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, despite what really happens out there.
Gotcha.
Al, you hit on a point that I want you guys to talk about. Talking about Evan, your son, who participated in cross country, and you said wasn't the fastest runner, but had a blast. And so, one of the things I think that's great about cross country and even track, like, there's no cut. There are no cuts. Right? Nobody
no
gets cut
cuts.
from the team.
No cuts.
Everybody participates. It's obviously an objective scoring system, right? You run with your run, and you can't mess with that.
The stopwatch doesn't lie.
Yeah, exactly. But everybody participates.
Yes, and not only that, I think the nice thing is we try to find meets that are what I call JV meets, where it's a big deal, and these kids can get medals and they can get a lot of accolades that they're not going to get in maybe November when we can only bring 7 to a state or an all-state meet. So we deliberately pick some of those invitationals where it's a big meet. I mean, there's 1,000 kids, all over the course. It's a big parent show up. I mean, it's not a spectator sport like football, but for those parents, it's a big deal seeing their kid run. And it's pretty special. It's kind of almost like a little bit of a music festival because you'll have a lot of music playing, and by that time it's getting a little crispy in the air. So you got the boys and girls huddling under a tent and waiting for the race. It's just a really kind of unique dynamic.
So for kids that that are participating in cross country this fall, whose parents might not be familiar with the sport. Can you talk a little bit about the scheduling? Because there's sort of the Merrimack Valley Conference schedule, I think, and then there are these invitationals
Sure.
or meets. Just talk about how that all works.
Yeah, you want to give that away?
Sure. All right. So our league meets are generally run on Wednesdays. We go every Wednesday. There'll be a sort of a gap week for everyone where we are not running on a Wednesday. And then the invitational meets are on Saturdays. And so generally the first half of the season, you're running basically every Wednesday. And then there'll be an overlap there where you might go a Wednesday, Saturday, but then towards the end of the season, everything's on a Saturday. So I wanted also to kind of go back to the previous question too about the draw of the sport for the kid who's not in the top 10, and that you can have a number of different goals as an athlete, and if your goal if you can't see yourself finishing in the top 10, certainly you can set time goals, you can set distance goals, and then the other thing that makes this different from maybe every other sport is that it's a lifetime sport. This is something that you can do on your own after you graduate from high school. You can enter road races. You can run marathons. We've had all sorts of athletes over the years who have not been top runners, come back to us or text us or tell us, I ran a half marathon. I ran a marathon. And so the whole, running aspect stays with them after they graduate from high school, and it's the best sport in the world to keep you fit, and to keep you energized, keep the weight off, any number of things that you might encounter as you get older. If you could stay healthy, that is, running is really a good sport to do for as long as you can.
What I was always impressed by, and I noticed from watching my son for 4 years, there are kids I can think of that that their freshman year running cross country. I mean, timing them with a calendar.
Yeah.
They're like waiting. We're waiting. I hope this kid didn't fall.
Yeah.
And then the next year they're in the middle of the pack, or
That's
the year
right.
after. And that always. I mean, that particular kid probably made more of a gain in his 2-3 years of running cross country than the best football player in the school, because that kid started here and he ended up here.
And we have plenty of examples where kids have come in, and if you looked at them, you'd say, boy, are they getting picked on at the lunchroom. And by the time they're sophomores, juniors, they're running for class officers. They're doing things you'd never think because of the confidence that they've got and the friendships that they've made with, maybe they weren't a cool kid in 7th and 8th grade, but now I'm hanging around with some pretty cool kids that are on the track team. And it's really unique. I mean, we've got 3 wrestlers on the team this year. They're training primarily for wrestling, but they want to maintain their weight and get their heart rate and their endurance up. We've got a hockey player that's on the team, on the girls' team. She skates for the Haverhill, Pentucket.
I see we get 2 of them.
We have 2 of them, but one is actually a varsity contributor.
Yeah.
The other one just loves it. She's not anything. She's a great hockey player, but she's not a very special runner. But she loves the friendship. She loves the group, and she loves the work. So it's not one of those sports where if you're watching, the skill of a Johnny Bono with a ball at his foot, you go, wow, what skills. But it's one of those sports of embracing the grind, and the rewards are very sometimes incremental, but it's there at the end of the day.
Who wants to talk about chocolate milk?
Well, I think that's one of the things I've kind of brought into to the culture. So, we had a couple young runners years ago. They're in college now, Abby Mastromonico and Courtney Dahlke. And we were just talking about recovery and what you should be doing after a long run, especially in the hot early summer. And so I said, well, here's a scientific journal article on the best recovery drink. And they kind of laughed. I said, no, read it. It's actually based on science. And so they got so excited. So there's been a culture, mostly on the girls' side, that just absolutely endorses and embraces this chocolate milk mentality. And they even have it in a little bit of a weird track element in the spring where they'll do a chocolate milk mile, which I wouldn't really embrace. But it has a little history where, you'll run 4 laps, and each lap you have to drink a chocolate milk before the next lap. And usually there's a little bit of giving back to the earth by a few of the athletes.
But chocolate milk is like the #1 recovery. I read the article because you sent it out to parents.
Yeah.
Yeah. The best recovery drink for, I guess, any athletics, I would think.
Yeah.
So aside from chocolate milk, you talked earlier about how some kids are coming into the season before it even started with some injuries. They're not under your control per se.
They really not.
And so August 22nd, they're now participating at the in the school. How do you handle injuries? How do you handle injury prevention? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, so we have a lot of things that we're doing with rollers and ropes and different dynamic warm-ups. At the end of the day, most injuries are caused by 2 things. One, inadequate running shoe, so they're trying to get extra life out of a running shoe. And even though a shoe might look great for walking the mall, generally they have about 500 miles in them. Sometimes people are a little hotter on shoes and it's less. And then the other intangible, which you have a lot of type A personalities that want to improve, is they want to get faster, better, and they overload. They do too much and their body can't handle it. So those are the 2 major contributors to injuries. So the kid that goes from, and we had one 2 years ago during the pandemic, he was coming off skiing season. He went from no running to 20 miles, and then in the summer, he jumped to 40. And so a jump from running 3 to 4 miles a day to 7 is a recipe for the classic, stress fracture. So unfortunately, we lost him into the fall with that injury, and it took him a while to recover. But those are the 2 major things. We try to get out and ahead of it. Some kids are not very good at communicating, so you have to drag it out of them. Some are very competitive and they want to run through the injury, and that's usually also a recipe for disaster.
They need the requirement to listen to the Bill Gordon podcast for those people.
We've sent more people to Bill Gordon than I can tell, and Bill does a great job. He's a great resource. He's a friend of the sport. His daughters have all run for us, and they're spectacular kids as well.
Do you so in June when school's ending, does the cross country team meet? Do they get like a training program for the summertime?
Yeah, we have a team meeting usually a couple weeks before they leave for the summer, and we give them a number of training programs. Actually, one for beginners, intermediates, advanced, and very ambitious.
But none of them say go from 20 to 40 miles.
No. They're all very gradual, and we sort of try to tailor the workout to the status of the individual. So the veterans here will get one that obviously isn't having them start at 12 miles a week. It'll start them at maybe 30 miles a week and build them up. But the whole idea is to build gradually. The sport in a sense is a tease. Because the improvements come quickly, and you can get as a runner, you can get sucked into this. Look how faster I got so quickly. I'll maybe if I double my mileage, I'll be twice as good, and that's where you run into the injuries. The other thing too is that the sport kind of promotes stubbornness too, because it requires a commitment, a very deep commitment. And when you've worked so hard to reach a certain level, you understand that days off are counterproductive, and you don't want to take them. If you feel an injury coming on, you realize, I have to take a day off, or maybe I'll have to take 2 or a week, and you've worked 3 months to get to where you are, and you do not want to give that up no matter what. And so this is why the kids are so reticent about coming to us with aches and pains, and we have to drag them out, especially the veterans. The veterans are the worst, because they've worked the hardest and they know what the sport requires, in order to be great, and they just don't want to go backwards, and as coaches, I mean, in a sense, we kind of feed into it too, because we're promoting all the time consistency. If you want to be good, you've got to run 6 days a week. But then you've got to balance the consistency with sanity in terms of what you're doing out there during those 6 days a week. You can't jump the mileage. You can't be running track workouts in the middle of July. Things like that. You've just got to put your miles in and not overdo it too much. But the sport does feed into the obsessive compulsive individual.
Yeah.
And maybe even create some too.
Yeah.
What are the injuries? What are the most common injuries that you see?
The worst is a stress fracture. IT band issues are pretty tough because they can take a long time to fix. But by and large, that stress fracture is a 6 to 8 week injury, which effectively knocks you out of one sport in delay. If you're running 3 seasons,
Sure.
cross country track, winter track, spring track, it'll knock you out of the beginning of the next sport, typically depending on the timing. What we try to do is if we're dialed into that and we're seeing things happen, our first response is maybe the trainer, take a day off. Second, we'll try to get them to cross training with a Peloton, stationary bike, or even pool running. So pool running is you're running with a vest, your feet are not touching the ground, and you can get a very high heart rate. And you can do that and actually extend yourself in terms of your aerobic fitness, for weeks doing that. You're not going to get faster, but you're going to hold what you have
Sure.
for a longer period of time.
What? So I have a question around being a cross country coach. I've been involved in team sports my whole life, right? So soccer coach, X's and O's, hockey, not that I'm a basketball player. I appreciate the laugh. But strategy, like a cross country coach, strategy, like what is your job? Like what is the job of the cross country coach?
So it's not a team sport. So you're managing personalities, you're developing expectations, and you're teaching them about training, proper training. There's not a lot of X and O's. There is some strategy. I think the simplest one, and I'll let Rick add a little bit here because he's got a lot of thoughts, but if you can get 5 runners within 15 to 20 seconds and that they're good, you can go far into the fall. So the idea is to develop a pack mentality, and we kind of say the strength of the wolf is the pack, the strength of the pack is the wolf. If you can get kids 15 to 20 seconds, 25 seconds running together over the course of a 5K at the front of a pack, especially at a state level, you'll do some damage. And that's sort of a strategy, is to try to, how do we get that 5th runner to be able to run with the 1, 2, and 3? And that's something that's hard. We haven't been blessed some seasons with that type of depth. So really you're just saying, hey, you just got to run, and we got to get as many low sticks as possible and hoping our 4th or 5th, 6th runner don't hurt us.
Yeah, and the strategy, I'd say, starts in June because you got to get them out running. We talked about culture at the very beginning. And when I was running for North Andover High, we had a very strong running culture. We loved to run. We loved to run a lot, all the time, and together. And we had a lot of success. And then we're talking late 70s, early 80s. And then we had some years where we didn't. And that was because we couldn't get a group of kids to buy into the idea that they had to put in the work in June, July, and August. And, so there was a drought for a while there. So one of the first things that Bill did when he came in 2017, he said, all right, we have to reestablish that culture, that we used to have in those glory years of the 70s and 80s. And that doesn't get built overnight. That takes years to develop, and we're finally getting there now.
Yeah.
Especially on the boys' side. The girls, there have been extenuating circumstances which have prevented our top girls from running as much as they probably needed to over the summer. But certainly the boys are. And he'd text me, okay, I got 7 guys over 40 miles this week. I got 8 guys over 40 miles this week. That's what it takes, and they have to do it, June, July, and August. That's when these meets are won. Then you just can't walk into the season, in late August and September, having done nothing, and expect to have success. It won't happen. And for a few years we had teams that believed they could do that. And, they did other things in the summer. They played hoops for hope, things like that. So they were in basketball shape, but they were cross-country runners sort of secondarily. And it took them all season to kind of get into running shape, the shape they probably should have been in, on September 1st. November 1st, they were just rounding into it.
Yeah.
Too late.
Yeah.
Your season's just about over at that point. So we had to change the culture that way. So once you get a bunch of people all doing the same thing consistently for that 3-month period, the winning kind of takes care of itself. It really does.
I had a question about, so I'm going to go back to town meeting back in May, right? Very, very popular town meeting, by the way. But your name, Bill, was on the sheet. So the town approved, I forget how much money, like $150,000 or something, because you guys have been running out at Harold Parker, right?
Yep.
And not the easiest place to get to for high school kids, especially all those kids. And so you guys were asking for money to redo, not Wire Hill, but behind Wire Hill.
Yep, Osgood and Half Mile Hill.
So what's the status on that? Like, is that in play for this year?
Yeah, so great point. And the bids were opened about a month ago. The award happened, I think, about a week ago. So they have a contractor lined up. I expect work to start this week. And really that's going to be just improving trails, putting down stone dust in the Half Mile Hill Trail, make it really a town asset as opposed to just cross country. I mean, it'll be a better asset for the town and should get more use in that little network of trails. Going back to North Andover High School, they used to run from the high school, and Rick can give you more specifics, but there was actually a car accident. A kid was hit because we were crossing from Ware Hill back into the high school. So we were forced to move to Harold Parker. And it really is not a home field advantage. It's not a great course. It's difficult to get our kids there. I mean, we're burning bus money just to get there, and you can never really train on it. So it's really like we'd go there 3 times a year, and our competitors would be there twice a year.
Yeah, so in essence, we're away every meet.
So the idea was, and the AD Nugent stumbled upon this opportunity, and it took a lot of negotiating and getting buy-in from the Conservation Committee and the Audubon Society and Stevens Estate. But that all came together, and this really will be a nice asset. Our kids have been training on that all summer on some of the loops, and it's going to be a beautiful course. It's all grass. There's no cement. There's no cars, and it's going to be fun because it's going to be hard.
One thing I'll say to the people in town, don't worry about the cross-country team taking care of it, because I've never seen you guys leave a wrapper behind. I mean, that's another thing that, tremendous. The kids are always picking up after themselves and leaving it better than they arrived. Is it going to be available for this season? Are you going to be able to use it this season?
We've had to tentatively move our first home meet, which is September 14th, to Chelmsford. But we have what we hope a homecoming meet, which will be in October, I think the 19th, with Haverhill and Andover, and we're hoping we'll have one meet this year.
Great.
And we'll see how much progress they can make.
Sure.
I know the contractor appears eager, but it just took some sign off from the town.
Good.
Predictions, girls' side?
Well, we're as I was talking to Bill today, I said we're threading a needle this season because a lot depends on the recovery of some of our top 5 runners, and it's difficult to predict how that's going to go.
Sure.
I mean, if they recover, we will do great. We'll have a great season. We'll challenge kind of what we did last year. If not, then kind of all bets are off. It'll be a sort of week to week thing. But the nice thing is, the status of these girls isn't such that they're going to be out for long periods of time. They're coming back off of things, so we just have to take it easy on them now. We can't throw them out there for 6 or 7 mile runs, but they'll get there eventually. We got to bring them back slowly, or else we may end up back at square one. So, like I said, we got to be patient on the girls' side, and hope that our talent can sort of overcome our fitness right now early in the season, and win some of those meets, and build some momentum. And then as the season goes on, we get stronger, and we're winning another league championship, and we're challenging at the divisional level.
And I'm writing another check for a banner in the
That's right.
for
I'm
the
in AAA. Yeah.
AAA. For
I think all those things will happen for the girls. I really
How about
do.
the boys?
So Lowell's the gold standard. I admire their coaching. I admire their program, and our aspiration is to beat them this year. I think we got a fighting chance. The team is hungry. I've never seen a bunch of boys, and right now we've got about 15 boys. I can't tell you who the top 7 will be. Really, we could put a second team out there and beat most of the league. So that's good depth, but we've got to execute. We got to stay healthy. And I have to protect them from themselves, because they have a tendency right now. They're so wired. They finish a 7-mile run, they want to go for 2 more, and it's like, you're done. And even today, I had to pull them back a little bit because they wanted to do some circuit work on the track. So I think at the end of the day, the boys and girls both have a chance to be at the All-States in November at Fort Devens. I think we both have a chance to be on the podium at the state meet, which that hasn't happened ever for the boys since '81, I guess.
Wow.
And the league goes through Lowell for the boys, and that would be
is that home or away?
That is at Drake-It.
At Drake-It.
At Drake-It.
What's the
It's
day?
a tri-meet.
Oh, tri-meet. Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be like October 5th, I believe.
All right.
Am I wrong that last year you guys finished as close a second to Lowell as you ever have?
Yeah, and we
Correct.
were a little banged up. We really had them. If that meet was at another course, we would have beat them. That's a real home field advantage.
Yeah.
And the league meet was even closer.
League meet was even closer. It was really seconds.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you. Appreciate you
Well,
coming
thank
in,
you.
talking about the season. We'll be watching and following, and go Knights, beat Lowell. Maybe we'll bust in some. Maybe we'll sponsor a bus. Or
It's going to be a great fall for
Yeah.
North Andover sports. It's
Yeah.
just fun to see the kids coming out of COVID from 2 years, and I think it's going to be a great fall for all sports.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you again. We'll be following you. And then just, a reminder, folks, visit naaknights.org. Register for the Knights on the Run, Saturday, October 8th. We'd love to see you there. And until next time, thank you very much.